We're up. It is the first break on the first day of the Humans to Mars Summit, coming to you from George Washington University in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. I'm Matt Kaplan of the Planetary Society. Back, we're not sure how many times, maybe the 10th time hosting this live stream. What a great start for H2M this year. A tremendous lineup of NASA representatives, and we are joined by one of them right now, Patrick Chai, engineer at Langley Research. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
That was fascinating. All of you were fascinating. You got some real nice kudos there from the Associate Administrator, Jim Free.
Yeah, that was really nice for Jim. And really, Jim was the one that really championed this and getting us on this path, right, with Jim and Pam both. So it's been great to work for them and really to realize their vision and really make this execution side of things.
He's been at this, as he said, for a long time, but he has seen things happen in the planning process, which was basically what you had told us about, that he's never seen before. That's also encouraging.
Yes. So, as I mentioned in my talk, right, we had 70 years worth of studies, right, and none of them have been implemented, right. So at some point we were trying something different, and the transparency side of things is really the important part, right. I know Administrator Melroy came to Humans to Mars to talk about the objective. Jim has talked here publicly. We are doing our part with the architecture definition document. With these white papers, eventually when we make these Mars decisions, we'll go publicly to discuss the rationale for it. The fact that we're talking about making these decisions now publicly is really driving, making sure that we get the feedback we need from the public. So,
you talked about 7 key decision areas, but your colleague, Prasoon Desai, talked about 187 shortfalls. And that's with Artemis, not getting to Mars, just doing all the things that we hope to do on the moon with Artemis. I've said this before. A lot of people have heard me say, space is hard, Mars is harder. Absolutely, and like I said, the key message has always been, Mars will be nothing like we've ever done before, and it will test all of our skills and our brain power to really make this a reality. The gaps themselves, it's maybe not limited to just the moon to Mars. And so some of those are Mars related, and we are soliciting feedback from the public on what things we may be missing. And the 7 decisions, that's not it, right? Like I said in our talk, there are hundreds of decisions that we have actually already identified are in the model. We are working through them methodically so that we can show rigor of our work. The 7 that we've defined are sort of the initial batch, we call them. And we've already done the work. We've identified the next batch. There's probably 4 of them right now that it's in the next batch range. And some of these will probably come fast and furious here in a few years, right? As soon as the science decisions gets made, right, that'll really spin up a lot of the other decisions that will come, basically are dependent on that decisions, right? So it will come fast and quick here in a couple of years once decisions start being made, and that helps us focus the architecture, right? Understanding what things need to be done so that we can focus that and really start defining things and really feedback that to what we're doing on the moon. Jim talks about it a lot. We absolutely are trying to learn as much as possible, buy down the risk as much as possible with our lunar mission so that we are ready to go to Mars. Because what we don't want is do a bunch of lunar missions and then have the switch of let's go to Mars now and starting all over. It's not. It's one moon to Mars architecture and everything is integrated and related. You went right where I was hoping to go with a couple of things, actually. It sounds like what you're talking about, that there is this commitment to let the science that can or should be done drive a lot of everything else that has to do with getting to these places, both the moon and Mars. And you talked about this interesting approach that I hadn't heard of, that you are working with the national academies of sciences, science, engineering, math, not far from where we're standing right now, in something similar to the decadal survey process.
Yeah, absolutely, right. And they have a well-established process in their decadal process and survey process, right. And it's really getting the community consensus. We've heard the comments when we asked with the questions about all the things they want to do. Yes, we absolutely understand that there are a plethora of science objectives, different things we want to do. But there's also the reality of it's physically impossible to do them all, right, all at once, right? And so what we've asked the academies is really, what are the priorities, right? The question asked specifically about the landing sites. Well, until we really figure out what is the highest priority science, it's really difficult for us, because we could end up picking a landing site that is not compatible with that highest priority, right? So it's slightly chicken and an egg, but at the same time we are doing it sort of concurrently, being transparent about it, really open for that dialogue, right, with both national academies and the public and the scientific community, so that we really drive that. But remember, science is only one of the three pillars of the exploration. The other two, inspiration and national posture, are also very important. We don't joke, but we say it's three for a reason, right? Because if one of those legs is not there, the stool falls over.
Falls right over.
Exactly. So it has to be all three. So it has to be a balanced approach. One can't dominate the other. It has to be all encompassing, and that's the integration, and that's sort of the public sort of integration part of it.
You seem to hear a lot fewer voices now questioning why the moon first. Isn't the moon just a distraction? Shouldn't we go straight to Mars? That was a big deal here not long ago in previous Humans to Mars summits. Not so much anymore, which I'm glad of.
I think it's recognition that it's obviously, if the goal is to just land people on Mars and plant a flag, yeah, go direct, right? That's where, Rob Zubrin was a big component of that. But when you have a very clear set of objectives, which we have now, right, of build-up capabilities, then it becomes a lot more logical, right, that we ought to be doing things on the moon to help us learn and improve, right? As I mentioned in my talk, right, Mars is very risky. There's a lot of risk involved. We don't really have a good grasp about all that risk at the moment, right? We're not even able to have really intelligent conversations about those risks right now. Doing the lunar missions will help drive out some of those things, help us learn a lot more about what it takes for humans to survive in space for more than a year. Operationally, complex operation between multiple spacecrafts, right? All those little things that you think is just easy to do, it's not really, right? And you have to do the work and show the rigor and really drive out what is necessary. And really, the other key point is the consensus building, right? This is not just a ESDMD, Exploration System Mission Development, effort. This is not just the STMD, the space technology, or SOMD, it's a space operation or science, right? This is a whole agency effort. Everybody's involved. Everybody has that buy-in.
Plus international partners.
International partner, exactly, and our industry partner. Very, very important, right? So we are also learning, and I'm glad you brought up the partners, right? We are, in the past, I think for Mars, it's sort of a, NASA's doing this, and NASA is its own entity, right? There's a recognition that we are likely not going to be doing this ourselves, right? So how do we build those partnerships? How do we build those relationships so that we can make it a more global effort, right? And we're learning so much with the Artemis Accord and learning all the things that we have to do when we have partners that bring their elements. How do we integrate that into the architecture? And how do we have that working relationship with our partners, both international and in industry, right? So all those lessons learned, they may not show up in the architecture side of things, but it's just as critical when building this consensus architecture, so.
We could stop there, but I want you to go a little bit deeper into something else that you say has been developed and is obviously a big part of this process now, and that's the decision-making model that you and others have developed, which NASA is now, I guess, depending on. How does that work?
So it it's a we love it, we call it a road mapping process, because we started off talking about it as like a roadmap. But the challenge, of course, is a roadmap gets obsolete very quickly. It's really important to talk about it as a road mapping process because it's ever evolving, right? We learn things, we get new data, and that needs to be taken into consideration when the modeling. So right now, it's identifying the key decisions for Mars. And really laying out the dependencies, both upstream and downstream. Like, we have a decision, Mars science. What are things that are all dependent on that decision? And there's a lot. There's so many, right? Are there anything that the Mars decision is waiting on to be decided so that we can make that decision? And what we saw was that not many, right? And probably likely not that many. And so that's why that rose up to sort of the high level, we should make this decision earlier rather than later. So that modeling process is helping us organize, right, the hundreds or so decisions that we've identified. That's really, really helpful for us. And the other thing too for us is with these models and the way we're defining these decisions, it's also not just an ESDMD decision, architecture decision. Yes, they are architecture decisions, but we are getting the consensus buy-in from our stakeholders across NASA. STMD, and obviously SMD is leading the Mars science decision, right? We're taking our role as what we call decision shepherds to help guide the process of how data. ESDMD did not ask the National Academy for that Mars science priority. SMD did, but it's in consultation with partnership, right? So it is a truly one NASA effort, and we are getting all of the stakeholders and all of the mission directorate involved in our decision-making process, so everybody can see how those decision implication, all the flow downs, so that they can understand when we make a strategic decisions, this is the impact, and they have the buy-in, and that's the key, is having the buy-in, and then we talk publicly about these decisions so people understand why we make those decisions. And that's really important for staying power, because we don't want to have to relitigate decisions again and again and again, because we never actually make progress, and that's what we want, making progress.
Helping to generate lots of buy-in so that you're not hurting cats in this case.
Well, yes.
I got one more. Sure. I couldn't figure out. I was trying to come up with a clever way to work this into the topics that we've heard about this morning. I can't, so I'm just going to ask you. Sure. Maybe you see some relevance in this. I see that in your spare time, you do aquatic sports timing at swim meets, I assume. Yes. As a former AAU swimmer, okay. That caught my eye.
Yeah, so I used to swim, and I swam in college, and I went to Georgia Tech, which obviously has the '96 U.S. Olympic pool, Atlanta Olympic, and they run the timing system there. It was actually one of the first a new addition to what the sports timing came up with. So I lifeguarded, and then I started working there for that. And so now I do these sort of on the side. So I've done a couple of national meets here and there. So it's fun, little side, I would say distraction. But yeah, I'll be at Indianapolis next month for the Olympic trials. So
very cool. Thank you so much for taking a few extra minutes to talk to us here, and enjoy, because you're sticking around, I think. Enjoy the summit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be here all week, today and tomorrow, so love to have more chats.
Thanks again. Right, yeah, Patrick Chai of NASA Langley, helping to lay out the groundwork, the road, the path that will eventually get humans to Mars, which of course is what we're all about here at the Humans to Mars Summit. We are going to continue this break for just a few more minutes, and if I go through this really fast, actually I think I'll substitute for something else here, just to give you an idea of what is coming up. The next segment is what are the most significant long poles for humans to Mars? We're going to see Joe Cassidy again. Joe Cassidy of Aerojet Rocketdyne, now an L3 Harris Technologies company. One of the major sponsors, by the way, of Humans to Mars, and we are very, very grateful for that. He's going to bring up some great people, and we'll talk more about, or we'll hear from them more about some of those challenges of getting us to the red planet. Then before we go to lunch, how can we most effectively protect the physical and mental health of astronauts voyaging to and from Mars? Human factors, not in the past always given the consideration that they should get, but they're getting it here at the summit. And then we've got a couple of lightning talks, including one from Collins Aerospace about the next generation spacesuit, because Collins is one of the two companies that might just have that little portable walking spacesuit that gets astronauts back to the surface of the moon, hopefully before too long with Artemis 3. All right, we'll stop for now, and we'll rejoin you when the program picks up, probably only in about 5 minutes from now, and we'll see you then.